Hey everybody. So, hope you all been doing well. I am going to talk to you guys about Greg Abbott. He was over the Texas Child Support Division from 2002 to 2014 as the Texas Attorney General. He called me at home around 2011 or 2012. I had filed for child support on my child's father a week or 2 weeks prior to giving birth. I gave him a chance to be an upstanding man, but he threatened to kill me and my ex-husband and take my child. Okay? So I went ahead and filed child support on him. And my child was born in 2010. So I gave it a good 2 years. Okay? At a year to 2 years. And I hadn't gotten the child support. So I started calling a couple of times a week to the child support division to figure out what the hell was going on. As a parent, that is my responsibility. Well, apparently somebody got irritated with me calling and called him, and he jumped smooth down my throat and talked to me like I was shit beneath his feet. And I ain't never fucking forgot that. Ever. I have never forgot that. Okay? If I'm not mistaken, he said something along the lines that he doesn't represent, that the child support division doesn't represent us. Doesn't matter if they represent us or not. They sure as hell did when I went to court for the child support and to be awarded the child support through the child support division. Now it is their responsibility to obtain that child support payment, to track down the non-custodial parent. Okay? So, he's been an asshole all his life. He don't give a fuck about nobody but himself and lining his pockets. Okay? He ain't worried about these kids. Never has been, because if he was, there would have been a whole lot more that he's done to try to get people their child support. Alright? He spent $70 million or something like that on upgrading the child support division's computer system. All right? But that's the only thing that I know of that he's done. Okay? I don't know of him doing anything worthwhile to help these parents obtain the child support payments for their kids. Okay? But Greg Abbott gave the Texans voter rolls to the DOJ on December 23rd of 2025. He's pitching the same vile rhetoric as the DOJ and Trump about purging ineligible voters and shit. Democrats keep warning that Greg Abbott handing over the voter rolls violates the Voter Privacy Act and that it could violate federal election law. When Abbott gave away our voter rolls, he also gave the DOJ our full names, driver's license numbers, date of birth, social security number, and if I'm not mistaken, I do believe our addresses was also with that information. Okay? This was done to 18.4 million registered voters in Texas. That's just the registered voters amount. That's not counting the entirety of the amount of people in Texas. Okay? Voters' right Advocates expressed fears that this could end up causing eligible voters to be incorrectly removed. Advocates, they could be removed off the voter list because it isn't who Trump wants to vote. That's what it amounts to. It don't have a damn thing to do with voter fraud. We never had a problem with voter fraud until Donald Trump's dumbass showed up. And Donald Trump ain't doing nothing but blowing smoke up everybody's ass and feeding y'all a line of bullshit. Every state has got their own department to investigate any potential fraud in the voting. There's no other logical explanation for the DOJ to have 18.4 million people's voter registration information. Really? No. You can move around with that bullshit. Okay? Anybody with any kind of common sense knows that's a bunch of that whole bunch is bullshit. Alright? Honestly, I don't know why I haven't heard of anybody suing Greg Abbott for this. And me personally, as a United States citizen and as a Texas resident, I want a class action lawsuit put on Greg Abbott for that. He violated federal laws. Okay? And I don't give a damn who likes him. And kiss my ass. Greg Abbott is another one that's got his lips planted firmly on Donald Trump's ass. And somebody needs to get a crowbar and remove them. Greg Abbott gave Texas information to the DOJ from the Health and Human Services for food stamps and Medicaid. Greg Abbott directed the Texas Health and Human Service Commission to review cybersecurity concerns, which involved sharing Texans' information to the DOJ, which include your full names, addresses, dates of birth, Social Security numbers, birth certificates, Social Security cards, housing assistance information, Social Security payments, child support payments, everything. Because when you file for food stamps and Medicaid, you have to show that you're a United States citizen, and in order to do that, you have to provide a birth certificate, a government-issued picture ID, driver's license, a passport, anything like that. Even a TWIC card, which is a Texas Workers Identification Card. They run an NCIC, which is a nationwide background check. That TWIC card allows you to even work on the Maritime Port of Entries. That TWIC card opens up many, 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 many doors for you to work, to make very good money. I've used my TWIC card to sit with some migrants that came in on a barge bringing in food products and stuff like that. Many years ago, there was an incident that happened to where they weren't able to make it back to their country on time to renew their visas. Okay? Not any fault of their own. The U.S. Marshal escorted them off the ship, put them in a motel room. I sat in the hallway between both doors. There was one in one room, one in another room. I would escort them down to get something to eat and take it back to their room, stuff like that. Never had a problem. Never had a problem. They were the most respectful people I think I've probably ever dealt with. Never had a problem with them. The U.S. Marshals came from the airport because those are the guys that fly with the migrants back to their country, hand them over to their immigration, explain the situation, paperwork is signed, the transfer of custody is done, the marshals get back on the plane with or without another expedition that they have to do, okay? And they bring their ass on back to the United States. Very easy. Okay? So, they gave all of our information away. All right? All kinds of private information. Nobody seems to catch, well, I don't know. I'm sure there's some people catch the drift that everybody in the United States of America is looking at the possibility of identity theft now. That's a fucking problem. That is a huge problem. Okay? Because you have to provide all kinds of information before you are approved or denied food stamps and Medicaid. They do everything but a damn rectal exam. It gets invasive. Okay? Greg Abbott has given directive to state agencies to share info with federal prosecutors, which are the DOJ, as part of an executive order targeting birth tourism schemes, authorizing coordination with the DOJ, and then Abbott has issued an executive order directing multiple state agencies to investigate healthcare providers involved with these so-called schemes. This gives permission to state agencies to share information with federal prosecutors, like I said, which is the DOJ. It is intended to enhance information against anyone facilitating in birth tourism. This is a list of agencies tasked with investigating and enforcing any laws related to birth tourism. Okay? Texas Health and Human Services, Department of State Health Services, Health and Human Services Commission, Office of Inspector General, Texas Medical Board, Texas Board of Nursing, Texas Department of Licensing and Regulations. There's not a doctor you can go to in the state of Texas and your damn information not be given to the DOJ. They are violating HIPAA laws. That's a felony. It's a federal offense to violate people's HIPAA laws when it comes down to a lot of sensitive information. They're giving out our personal information, our diagnosis, our medical history, our prescriptions that we've been prescribed, the whole 9 fucking yards. Do you hear me? Everything. These agencies are empowered to take enforcement actions against any individuals or entities to be suspected to be participating in promoting unlawful tourism practices. Abbott says that this is to prevent exploitation of immigration laws, ensure U.S. citizenship is not misused for profit. Sharing HHS client information can get Abbott landed in court over HIPAA laws, Privacy Protection Act, and especially over protected health information disclosures. The AG has argued they unlawfully limit state investigators' access to such information, which impacts law enforcement efforts. This violates the 14th Amendment, and lawsuits can be filed against the state by the federal government for overstepping the federal government because regulating immigration matters are a federal responsibility. Ordinarily, airlines prevent women from flying if they are 30 weeks along or more due to the possibilities of premature labor. After 36 weeks, women are restricted from flying. After 36 weeks, most airlines do not allow pregnant women to fly. I've worked for an airport several different times. I'm telling you, once you're past a certain point on being pregnant, you legally shouldn't, well, not necessarily legally, but logically you shouldn't fly because of the pressure. When you take off, there's so much pressure put against you that it could force premature labor. Medical clearance. Some airlines may require a letter from a healthcare provider confirming fitness to travel to ensure there is little to no chance or labor risks and the woman is less than 36 weeks. 3 things to consider before flying, okay? These are recommendations that everybody can look up. Are you a health risk, such as a high-risk pregnancy patient? There's a risk of flying because it increases complications in the 3rd trimester, which is 9 months, okay? That's into your 9th month. 6 to your 9th month. Emergency care. Make sure you know the medical facilities around whatever your destination is. Travel insurance. Then it covers pregnancy-related issues, including labor and delivery for women that are 8 and 9 months along in the pregnancy. Flying is not recommended due to high risks of labor and airline restrictions. Birthright tourism, okay? I looked this up. I personally have never heard of anything so ridiculous and stupid in my life. There's about 3 different websites that I opened, and all 3 of them said basically the same thing, that they don't have anything identifying any of that happening. They don't have any numbers on it, no percentage numbers. There's no year to date on it talking about when and if it's ever happened or anything. Nothing. Nothing. All they're doing is blowing smoke up your ass because they know the big ass Save Donald Trump's ass, the Save America Bullshit Act, isn't going to pass because it violates the federal laws and it violates constitutional rights. So they are doing all this extra shit, taking the long way around to get everybody's information to purge you from voting. That, my friend, is exactly what I do believe they are trying to do. In my opinion, that is exactly what I do believe they're doing. Just saying. Okay? It says there is no definitive way or anything concrete proving birth tourism even exists. How you like them apples? There is no official count of babies who are born in the U.S. for purpose of becoming citizens. Greg Abbott also Jim Crowed the gerrymandering the political map to try and keep any Democrat from being sworn in by removing the Democratic black districts inevitably pushing Dems under Republicans in order to control, dominate, and continue oppressing the Democrats. They don't want anyone to succeed or prosper. In my opinion, they want to usher in slave days to those, if you're not an elite or an oligarch. They want to work you to the fucking bone and raise taxes on us while they are giving the top 1% the biggest tax cuts there is. They want us to work so they don't have to, and we have to support them, and meanwhile we're eating crumbs. Slavery was abolished in the 1800s. Jim Crow gerrymandering on 8/29 of 2025, and this is something that wasn't made public until many months later, when all that shit started happening with Virginia. Okay? Abbott signed the new congressional map after it passed by the Texas legislature during a special session directed at redistricting. The intention of the map is to give Republicans a foot up ahead of the 2026 election, okay, the primaries and midterms. July 9th of 2025, he had a session with Texas legislature to talk about the redistricting. August 20th of 25, Texas State House passed the Jim Crow map, suing Republicans. 8/23 of 25, State Senate approved redistricting. Sure as hell didn't let nobody here in Texas know, did he? August 29th of 25, Abbott signed the Jim Crow map into law. The map is aimed to target Democrat seats, mostly ones with minority population. This has caused legal issues within federal courts, blocking its use for the 26 elections. The Supreme Court allowed the maps to be used. The map is used to target Democrats, 5 seats, and it's being used to strategize the capitalization on Republicans' gains with Spaniard voters, even though results suggest that voter preferences are fluid. Basically, Republicans are having a hard time reaching desired outcomes. This map would give Republicans a chance to increase the number of seats from 25 to 30. Legal challenges to gerrymandering in Texas often focus on violations of Voting Rights Act. Claims that the redistricting purposefully discriminates against minority voters like the Spaniards and black community. This can lead to lawsuits that search out to block the biased Jim Crow maps and forced states to create fair electoral districts. No taxation without representation, baby. Greg Abbott told schools students can't walk out of classes to protest their constitutional rights outside. Okay, I'm the one that put outside. You'll see here in a minute why. Abbott said students don't have the constitutional right to walk out of school to protest, as it can be considered disruptive. He says anyone that walks out of school will face consequences like unexcused absences. Nobody cares. Give them all the unexcused absences they want to. Don't give a shit about that. Constitutional rights, Abbott says students do not have an absolute right to leave school to protest. Such actions could be classified as disruptive to an educational environment. Supreme Court, Abbott, sorry, my handwriting started getting sloppy, referenced SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States decision indicates students' free speech rights are limited during school settings. Limited, I can understand. When you are in school, there is certain things that you can and cannot say, or you should or shouldn't say. You've got to be choosy with your words. Okay? I do understand that. Free speech rights are limited. During school settings, the court has established that while the students have some rights, but not if they disrupt school activities, and he's saying that teachers are prohibited from encouraging students to leave class for protests, and if teachers encourage students, they're being they're being threatened with their teaching licenses, and schools are facing defunding. I'm gonna tell you what, dude. Anybody that's got kids now, all of us are Gen Z. No teacher at all ever encourages any student to ever leave school during school hours. None of them do. Okay? A teacher went to college to become an instructor. They encourage education. Don't have a clue where the hell you come up with that dumb shit. Greg Abbott, you need to sit down and shut the fuck up and resign. You're an idiot. And you need to remove your lips off of Trump's ass. And they're not disrupting school when they're leaving the school, going off school grounds, and they're protesting. They are not standing in the hallways and in the classrooms protesting. They are not exercising free speech and expression inside the schools. They are going on the sidewalks and in the grass on the outside of the school grounds. That part of the school, it's not even that part of the school, but that part outside school grounds on the sidewalk and on the grass outside of the gates belongs to the city, the county, and the district police. Not to the school. The measures regarding student walkouts can be tested in court, mostly pertaining to the interpretation of what action constitutes facilitating walkouts. Most states allow students to walk out in participation where under the First Amendment, okay? The only thing schools can do is discipline students for missing class, but nothing harder than that for penalties for political protests compared to any other unexcused absences. Everyone's constitutional right starts as soon as they are born. Abbott threatened student of arrest due to protesting ICE. And the deaths from ICE in Central Texas state officials say the demonstrations are illegal. First Amendment says you have the right to peacefully protest. and disruptive and are illegal and disruptive instead of protected political expression, which freedom of expression falls under freedom of speech, which are constitutional rights. People's constitutional rights don't start and end at certain times like a work schedule. Your constitutional rights don't clock in and clock out. They are forevermore until the day you die. From the very exact moment you were born all the way up to the very exact moment you pass away. Okay? Children under, in my opinion, children under 14, I think, should stay inside the school because they're still learning their rights on what they can and can't do and for their own safety unless they're with their parents. Okay? And that's my opinion. Okay? I'm not saying that's the way it should be. But if my child was involved with the walkouts, going to protest, unless she is 15 or above, my concern would be her safety first and to stay inside the school. Unless I went there to withdraw her for the day and I was outside with her while she practiced her constitutional rights. Texas governor threatens arrest and funding cuts as students protest against ICE spreads statewide. And this is by Business Times, updated February 5th of 26. Tracy Park is the name that was on the article. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has escalated his response to student-led protests against ICE, warning that students who walked out of class could face arrest, and that school districts permitting such demonstrations risk losing state funding. Students could face arrest if they walk out of class to go protest. What are you going to arrest the students on? Truancy? Nope, can't do that. The first few classes they went to shows the students were there. Okay? You going to arrest them for disrupting the school? Nope. You can't do that either. They went outside of the school property onto the sidewalks and grass. This part of the property belongs to the city or county. What are you going to do? To try to arrest them for demonstrating? Nope, can't do that either. That falls under free speech, Amendment 1. Greg Abbott, the threat reinforced this week by formal guidance from the Texas Education Agency follows a series of walkouts across Central Texas in which students protest ICE and recent deaths linked to ICE operations. State officials framed the demonstrations as unlawful disruptions of instructional time rather than protected political expression. This is not disruptions of instructional time because the students aren't protesting in class. They left school property. People's constitutional rights don't clock in and out like a job. They are in full effect 24/7, 365 days a year. Everyone's rights go into full effect the very exact moment they were born, like I said. Okay? I just repeated what I said. On February 3rd, the Texas Education Agency issued statewide guidance directing school districts to treat political walkouts during school hours as unexcused absences, warning that schools could lose funding under daily attendance if they allow or facilitate such activity. The agency said teachers who assist or encourage walkouts could face investigations under Educator Code of Ethics, including potential license revocation. Teachers cannot stop students from leaving school over a certain age due to safety and well-being for the young child, 15 and up. And this is my opinion, okay? They should be able to leave and not be held against their will. Teachers are not capable of forcing students to stay if they choose not to. The student could even call a parent to come check them out of school. Fuck around, Texas Education Association and Greg Abbott, keep on. The guidance also warned that districts found to be facilitating protests could face state intervention, including the appointment of a monitor, conservator, or board of managers, steps that would effectively place schools under state control. The agency cited state law prohibiting schools from supporting political activism that disrupts classroom instructions. This is why Texas has been a Republican state for 32 years. The current Republicans are threatening people by taking away their money for standing up for people's constitutional rights. Abbott amplified the policy through social media, signaling a more punitive posture, reacting to reports of arrests during a student walkout in Kyle, Texas. The governor wrote, now listen to this. This is some shit that the orange rump roast boy in fucking Washington, D.C. would say. It's about time students like this were arrested. Schools and staff who allowed this behavior should be treated as co-conspirators. He's stripping the funding of schools that abandon their duty to teach our kids the curriculum required by law. Guess what, asshole? Teachers didn't abandon their duties to teach. Some students left to go practice their constitutional rights. And you don't like it because you want total control over the people, the way Texas has been under control of the Republicans for 32 fuck-ass years. Okay? How about Texans file a class action lawsuit on you for allowing ICE into our schools to attack and terrorize kids, because ICE and Customs and Border Patrol are destructive and dangerous, and because ICE are also raping people as well as children, adult people as well as children. The remarks followed protests in the days consolidated in independent school districts where police confirmed that 2 juveniles were arrested during a walkout. Authorities said the arrests were not for protesting, but stemmed from alleged alcohol possession and resistance during police interaction. 1 juvenile was charged with assault on a public servant, resisting arrest, and alcohol-related offenses. In Texas, depending on the age of the minor arrested for illegal possession of alcohol, 16 to 18 usually are kept in jail till they see a judge. Sometimes they get a ticket and get taken to the jail. Parents get called to pick up the kids and get a date to go see the judge. Okay? So, it's ridiculous. In a separate incident in Buda, Texas, video footage shows an adult confronting student protesters, prompting the intervention by students. Police later arrested the man, charging him with assault. Local officials said the investigation was unrelated to students' protest activity itself. But you're worried about the students walking out of class to protest and exercise their free rights. Get the fuck out of here. The adults are the ones attacking the kids. The video of the adult attacking the student protesters is found under Kyle Mann arrested for assaulting a student. You can find these videos on YouTube, okay? I've counted 51 and 6 out of the 51 can't be viewed for whatever reason. But Abbott wants to arrest students exercising their constitutional rights given to all of us by the founding fathers of our nation. School administrators responded by warning students that future walkouts would result in absences and disciplinary actions. Hayes CISD Superintendent Eric Wright said the district would not condone walkouts. You don't have to condone it. That's your right to have a difference of opinion. But it is not your right to stop anybody from practicing their constitutional rights outside of the school. That's why the protest was taken outside the school gates. Condone walkouts during instructional hours and would enforce attendance rules. So what? You're going to have students suspended, put in ISS, in school suspension is what that's called. Civil rights advocates argue that the state's response risks infringing on students' constitutional rights. The Supreme Court's 1969 decision in Tinker versus Desmones, I think is how you say it, Desmones. Desmones Independent Community School District held that students do not shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. And they're right. They are absolutely right. Now I got something else that most of you probably don't know shit about. And I just recently found this one out. Okay? Y'all are gonna flip shit on this one. Okay? Hold on. Article 4. I lost my page in here, guys. He hasn't said anything publicly that I'm aware of about creating what's called the 15-minute cities. Has it? Yeah. Wait till you hear about this. The why behind creating a 15-minute city by Lay Boudlong, the third article in a series of major changes to Texas. What does this mean for low income and middle class folks? Because that's what we have. That's what's out here in the cities. That's not a part of the government or the elite oligarch 1%. Limited vehicle parking. They're talking about putting up walls around these 15-minute cities. No cash accepted businesses. Flock cameras linked to AI technology surveillance. Texas zoning laws went into effect September 1st of 2025. Bills SB 840, SB 2477, SB 15, and HB 24. Okay? They want everything within walking distance. No more vehicles. Some see it as a potential trap, including geo fencing. What else do you know as geo? The geo prison, the one that they're using for the concentration camps. Geo is giving Donald Trump a kickback. Okay? They're donating to him through campaigns and all this other shit in big dollar numbers. Okay? 10-foot mason walls, if next to residents and commercial businesses. Social credit system tied to digital currency. What do you know is digital currency? Crypto banks that he's making, that Donald Trump's coming up with. Okay? Electric vehicles programmed to shut off and only serve select areas. Different types of policing, cameras, drones, and audio recordings used for surveillance. Reading license plates, ALPR is what it's called, okay? Which are the flock cameras. HOAs have signed on to using flock cameras. If you live in an HOA community, there's flock cameras all over your neighborhood. Some of them are probably at your driveway. Amazon, I think it is. Amazon or not USPS. Anyway, there's another one that's used for delivery. Okay, and I think the trash trucks have them, or they were trying to put them on trash trucks. The cameras. They're reading your license plates, guys. They're getting your addresses off your houses and shit. That's what they're doing. I emailed Representative Babin. Okay? Philip Babin, 3/23/1940. Oh, okay. That's his birthday. The second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, or the second paragraph of the Declaration pertaining to ICE, DHS, the email is as follows. ICE are destructive. Donald Trump is destructive. The both hold the blood on their hands of the people ICE has killed. Trump has now been proven in a court of law to be a certified rapist, and he better be on the RSO list. And for those of you that don't know what an RSO is, it is called the Registered Sex Offenders List. I demand that Donald Trump be removed and ICE be abolished immediately. When people fear their government, it's tyranny. Y'all are to serve the governed, which is the people of the United States of America. Okay? Power to the people, baby. Power to the people. Now, this is the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator, with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Okay? Of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And according all experience hath shown, that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms they are accustomed. But when along trains of abuses and use, your patience pursuing inevitable the same object, evidences a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new safeguards for their future security, which has been the patient sufferance of these colonies. Okay? It bleeds off into talking about when we used to be under Great Britain. That's why the first part of all of this is talking about abolishing a dangerous government. Okay? And such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated insuries and usurpations, all having indirect, okay? And then you got Greg Abbott, okay? He's harboring a fugitive. The guy that worked for the Gestapo ICE in Minnesota, that shot the guy at the house, tried to say that was going to hit him with the shovel. That Gestapo ICE idiot, he fled from Minnesota to Texas. Greg Abbott refuses to turn him over, and there's a warrant for his arrest. With Greg Abbott being a governor, okay, of the highest institute of a state, he could be charged with felonies, harboring a fugitive, aiding and abetting. Okay? So, under Texas Penal Code 38.05, hindering apprehension or prosecution. Okay? Anyone can look this law up. https:// codes www.findlaw.com/tx /penal code /penal SECT 38-05 /. Okay, and then you got Article 4, Section 2. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. No person held in service or labor in one state under the laws thereof escaping into another shall, in consequence of any labor regulation herein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. This second part that I read is talking about paying their dues to the state that they committed the crime in. That anybody that knows where this person fled to, by law, has to deliver up the criminal, the accused, to the state authorities where that crime was committed. They are to go face their charges, be given due process. They are legally allowed to face their accusers in these crimes and accusations of the crime. And by the Constitution and by the Texas state law, you legally have to surrender this guy. And if you don't, just because you have animosity towards Minnesota because you want to eat the Kool-Aid and have your lips on Donald Trump's ass and believe every damn word he says about Minnesota, you're a fool. And you deserve to be charged with that crime. You are a blazing fucking idiot, Greg Abbott. You and your wheelchair need to go fucking resign. Plain and simple. You are a piece of shit and I cannot stand you. Okay? I will never forget who you are. When you called me at home and you talked to me like I was shit beneath your feet, you showed me who you were the first time and I believed it. And I ain't never forgot it because it's always stood true. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That is the separation of church and state. And the schools have no place having religion in it being pushed down the throats of our kids. And with that being said, or abridging the freedom of speech, I have every right to freedom of speech. And I just exercised it. And you cannot infringe on that. Or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government in a redress. So, I've just caught everybody up on everything in an hour's video. Help yourself to go and look this up. The more information you have and the more informed you are, the better off. I recommend voting for Gina Hinosa. It's time for Greg Abbott to be removed and just move on. Go ahead and resign. Give up your seat, you're done. You're not for the people, you're for yourself and lining your pockets. It's that simple. Get out of office. You're not wanted. I hope you guys have a good day, and I will throw another video out later on sometime. Like, share, and subscribe.